In a few moments, the news. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The time is 8:45 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited by Dilini Gunawardena and read by Tilani Pires. The headlines. The President pledges digital transformation, poverty reduction and educational reform. The Premier Dinesh Gunawardena holds talks with his Chinese counterpart. The Prevention of Domestic Violence Act is to be replaced. The efforts for the establishment of National Higher Education Development Commission are accelerated. The Cabinet approval is granted for the promotion of the registration of ships under the Sri Lankan flag. And on international news, Qatar says UN ceasefire resolution has had no immediate impact on peace talks in Doha. And on sports cricket, Asian Cricket Council announces Women's Asia Cup 2024 in Sri Lanka. The President, Ranil Wickremesinghe, highlighted Sri Lanka's commitment to agricultural modernization and emphasized the nation's goal of reducing multidimensional poverty. By 2035, Sri Lanka aims to ensure that multidimensional poverty does not exceed 10%. The President stressed the importance of establishing a robust framework and gathering accurate data to achieve this target. This data will help identify individuals and areas most in need of assistance at the grassroots level. President Wickremesinghe emphasized that addressing multidimensional poverty is a crucial tool alongside efforts to enhance the education system. These remarks are made while delivering the keynote speech at the Digital Public Infrastructure Seminar held at the Taj Samudra Hotel, Colombo today, emphasizing the timeliness of the seminar amid Sri Lanka's shift beyond economic stabilization. Highlighting the achievement of stabilizing the economy and ongoing negotiations with international creditors, the President outlined the government's economic transformation agenda. The seminar on digital public infrastructure was co-organized by the High Commissioner of India in Colombo and the Minister of Technology to explore the transformative potential of DPI for enabling service delivery, empowering communities by fostering inclusivity and enriching the economy by driving innovation. The Chinese Premier Li Qiang held talks with Sri Lankan Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena in Beijing today. Premier Li said China and Sri Lanka are strategic partners of cooperation characterized by sincere mutual assistance and enduring friendship spanning generations. The two countries have always respected each other and enjoyed equality and reciprocal cooperation since the establishment of diplomatic relations 67 years ago. He also noted that China is ready to work with Sri Lanka to implement the important consensus reached by the two heads of state during their talks last year, carry forward the tradition of friendship, consolidate political mutual trust, and expand bilateral cooperation in various fields to promote common development. He called on the two sides to explore cooperation potential in clean energy and telecommunication while strengthening exchanges and cooperation in culture, tourism and education. The Premier Gunawardena thanked China for providing long-term support to Sri Lanka's efforts to safeguard national sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity and helping the country realize economic and social development and cope with the COVID-19 pandemic and financial crisis. The Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that Cabinet approval has been granted to publish a draft bill prepared by the legal draftsman focusing on revising the Prevention of Domestic Violence Act No. 34 of 2005, aligning it with contemporary requirements and present it to Parliament for its concurrence. However, in light of the need for clarity and understanding among the public, it has become apparent that a new act under the same name, encompassing all relevant revisions, should be enacted. This new act will supersede the current legislation, facilitating easier comprehension for all stakeholders. This decision is prompted by the necessity to revise a substantial number of sections in the existing act. Consequently, the Cabinet of Ministers has granted approval to a resolution put forward by the President in his capacity as the Minister of Women, Child Affairs and Social Empowerment. The resolution directs the legal draftsman to prepare a new draft bill that will incorporate and require revisions and effectively replace the current Prevention of Domestic Violence Act No. 34 of 2005. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The central bank says country's trade services, mainly earnings from tourism, have recovered significantly during the first 2 months of 2024, while the positive momentum of workers' remittances also continued. During the special press briefing convened this morning to present the second monetary policy review of 2024, CBS's Economic Research Director, Dr. S. Jagajivan revealed that workers' remittances were recorded at $964 million from January to February. Meanwhile, tourism earnings were recorded at $687 million during these months. According to figures of the central bank, both workers' remittances and tourism earnings have seen a significant improvement last year as opposed to 2022. Workers' remittances increased from $3.8 billion in 2022 to $6 billion in 2023, while tourism earnings went up from $1.1 billion in 2022 to $2.1 billion in 2023. Approval has been granted by the Cabinet for the promotion of the registration of ships under the Sri Lankan flag in a bid to explore the potential to generate direct and indirect employment opportunities. The government states that ship registration is a major source of foreign exchange to the country's economy. As such, the Cabinet has approved the proposal presented by the Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation to invite expressions of interest and proposals from qualified domestic and foreign institutions to promote the registration of ships under the Sri Lankan flag. That ends the local news for now.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
The State Minister of Higher Education, Suren Raghavan, revealed that the report prepared by the committee chaired by the former Chief Justice, K. Sri Pavan, the establishment of the National Higher Education Development Commission, aimed at replacing the University Grants Commission, has been submitted to the Ministry today. He further stated that upon thorough examination of the report, the establishment of the National Higher Education Development Commission could be accomplished within this year. State Minister Raghavan was addressing a press briefing held at the Presidential Media Center today under the theme of Collective Path to a Stable Country. That was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Watch Live is brought to you by
CIB Navy offer valuable gifts and gift vouchers, 25% discount for bank cards till 10th of April. Visit CIB today. CIB revives once always.
The special unit established in the Bureau for Prevention of Abuse of Children and Women of Sri Lanka Police has received a total of 1,077 complaints related to incidents of abuse, violence and harassment against women and children. The special unit allows the general public to submit complaints related to crimes against children and women through the email address cwb.online@police.gov.lk or the hotline number 109. That number once again, hotline number 109. That came to you in Watchlight.
CIB Navy offer valuable gifts and gift vouchers, 25% discount for bank cards till 10th of April. Visit CIB today. CIB revives once always.
Coming up, World News. World News headlines first. Qatar says UN ceasefire resolution has had no immediate impact on peace talks in Doha. China hits out at US and UK over cyber hack claims. The UK judges say that US must promise no death penalty for Julian Assange. Qatar's Foreign Ministry spokesman says the passing on Monday of a UN Security Council resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza has had no immediate impact on the ongoing negotiations between Israel and Hamas. According to the Reuters news agency, sources briefed on the discussion said they were moving ahead. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned in a statement that the UN resolution had damaged the negotiations, while Hamas said a ceasefire should mean the end of the war and the withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza. China has hit back at accusations from the US and UK that it is behind a state hacking operation targeting millions of people in Western countries. A foreign ministry spokesperson said Washington and others should stop their own cyber attacks, accusing them of political manipulation. He added that Britain's evidence for alleging its electoral commission and MPs had been hacked was inadequate. The US and UK have blamed a Chinese state-run cyber unit for the attacks. The British High Court has ruled the US must give assurances that Assange will not face the death penalty before judges will consider dismissing the WikiLeaks founder's bid to bring an extradition appeal. The ruling means the legal saga, which has dragged on for more than a decade, will continue. The court said in its written ruling that Assange arguably would not be entitled to rely on the First Amendment right to free speech as a non-US national, that while none of the existing charges carried the death penalty, he could later be charged with a capital offence such as treason, meaning it would be unlawful to extradite him. Back to the world news headlines. Qatar says UN ceasefire resolution has had no immediate impact on peace talks in Doha. China hits out at the US and UK over cyber hacks claims. The UK judges say that US must promise no death penalty for Julian Assange. That ends World News.
Development News.
The Sri Lanka Korea Business Council SLBC of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce recently hosted a networking evening for members of the council, diplomats, government officials and industry representatives to foster collaboration and bilateral cooperation. The ambassador of the Republic of Korea to Sri Lanka, Ms. Myeon Lee, graced the occasion. That was Development News. Moving on with sports news. And it's cricket tonight. The Asian Cricket Council has announced the upcoming Women's Asia Cup 2024, scheduled to take place in Dambulla, Sri Lanka, from the 19th to the 28th of July 2024. This edition of the tournament will feature 8 teams, one more than the previous edition in 2022, indicating the growing interest and participation in women's cricket across Asia. Joining the cricketing powerhouses of India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh will be the semi-finalists of the Women's Premier Cup 2024, UAE, Malaysia, Nepal and Thailand. The ACC further added that in line with the ACC's vision for inclusivity and equality in cricket, the Women's Asia Cup 2024 will continue the tradition of having all female referees and umpires following the successful implementation of the same in the previous edition. That ends cricket news on our sports segment.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Ozone Mineral Water Exports Private Limited recently exported 40 high-cube containers of 600 millimeters drinking water bottles to Sydney, Australia, becoming the first ever Sri Lankan company to do so. The company has been awarded an order to supply 1,600,000 milliliter water bottles to Australia. The company started exporting water bottles to other parts of the world 30 years ago. That came to you in Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
And on economic news, the Cabinet of Ministers has given its approval to amend the National Minimum Wage of Workers Act No. 3 of 2016 to increase the minimum monthly wage and daily wage of all workers in any industry. This was recommended by the tripartite subcommittee of trade unions representing small and medium-sized enterprises and employees appointed by the National Labour Advisory Council. The relevant proposal was presented to the cabinet meeting held yesterday by Minister Manusha Nanakkar. That was economic news.
Weather report.
The Met Department says that atmospheric conditions are getting favourable for afternoon thunder showers in most parts of the island. It further predicts showers or thunder showers will occur in most places of the island after 2 p.m. Heavy showers above 100 millimetres are likely at some places in the western, Sabragama, northwestern and central provinces. Several spells of showers may occur in the eastern and Uva provinces in the morning as well. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the central, Sabragama and Uva provinces and in the Kalutara, Gaul and Mathura districts during the morning hours. That was the weather report. And now to in this news broadcast, the main points once again. The President pledges digital transformation for poverty reduction and educational reform. The Premier Dinesh Gunawardena holds talks with his Chinese counterpart. The Prevention of Domestic Violence Act is to be replaced. The efforts for the establishment of National Higher Education Development Commission are accelerated. The Cabinet approval is granted for the promotion of the registration of ships under the Sri Lankan flag. And on international news, Qatar says UN ceasefire resolution has had no immediate impact on peace talks in Doha. And on sports cricket, Asian Cricket Council announces Women's Asia Cup 2024 in Sri Lanka. That ends this news broadcast, and now it's back to Chandima Virakon as always on a Tuesday night. Back to you, Chandima.